What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Ones. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Calum White. Calum, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here.
Amazing. I mean, look, White & Co. is no stranger to the Dubai real estate market. I believe you guys are one of the top 5, if I'm not wrong.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. And you just celebrated a huge milestone, so congrats on that.
Thank
4
you so
years
much.
as a brokerage. And you're known for this one very crazy thing, which is you had 8 people in a 16,000 square foot office, and you said, I don't want to bother with the renovation, so let's just get a huge office.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So before I had White & Co, I had another brokerage that I was a half partner in. So I was a managing partner there. And over the 2 years that I ran that brokerage, we had to move offices 3 times.
Wow.
Because they started with 10, and then we grew to 50, and then we grew to 100. And as we got bigger, we got a new office, renovated that, and I just saw a waste of money there. So I was like, once I opened my own brokerage, which was fully my own, which is White, said, let's just get the big office because I know we're going to fill it.
Yeah.
A bit scary in the beginning, and it wasn't as easy to hire people as I thought it was going to be. But it's been a hell of a journey, and it's been a lot of fun. But, risk versus reward, and it's paid off now.
Of course. I mean, I think it's easier said now than it was probably 4 years ago. So kudos for you, seeing that sort of uptrend, from way back then. I can't imagine what you'd be like as a commercial advisor.
Oh, yeah. Just take it.
Just get the big office, dude. You're going to grow. It's amazing. No, but Calum, tell me, I've met so many different brokerage owners, and I've spoken to people that have sold a single transaction like billion dirhams, the ends of the spectrum, right? Yeah. And my whole thing with this podcast is to really understand the people behind the brokerage. I find the psychology of leaders very interesting, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about what 7-year-old Calum was like.
Oh, right, okay. Actually, you know what? I don't think I've ever been asked that on a podcast.
Let's go.
I love doing this stuff, and then when someone gets me with a question that I've not been asked. As a kid, I've always been a bit of a geek.
Yeah.
So I'm really into, for people that don't know out there, I collect comic books, I collect sneakers, and I like sort of things that are a bit more geeky. Example, I just got my tickets for the Abu Dhabi Comic Con the other day.
You're kidding.
So I love all that stuff, and it's funny. And as I grew older, but I always knew when I was younger, I've always been competitive. So, and there's nothing wrong with being a bit techie or as, geeky as we used to call it, whatever else. And, the geeks are the ones making the big money these days. But I've always been very competitive. I've also been very sporty. So, if you can take a good combination of having a bit of smarts and then at the same time being competitive, I wanted to be successful and I wanted to be one of the best. And there wasn't a plan B, which was always interesting. And I've always been a bit of a know-it-all. It's actually, when people ask me what one of my flaws is, I always say, I'm a bit of a know-it-all, and I need to work on that. When you look back now, the teachers that said, I know the answers because I'm the teacher, kind of makes you laugh now. Just because you're in a position doesn't mean that you know everything. And I think that something very interesting is always learning, always getting better. So that 7-year-old Calum, I grew up, didn't have much, but at the same time had more than many people out there. So, it's not a sob story. Be generous and make sure that life was good, and that, life is good now.
That's such an interesting story, especially when you talk about, I think you've seen so much of this that you've just said, I don't want this to sound like a sob story because I wasn't like dead broke or anything like that when you started out. And I think it's important to point out the great successes that we see on social media and things like that. Like, obviously you put in the hard work and things like that. But when you speak about people like Elon Musk, for instance, right? People think that this dude just exited like one tech company, split his money into 2 different companies and started. That's not what it is. Actually, one of my friends, Ahmed Mahmoud, he's got this podcast called the Ahmed Mahmoud Show, and he had Errol Musk on the podcast, Elon Musk's dad. And Errol was like, oh, Elon had a great childhood. He went to school in a Rolls Royce. And nobody knows that, right?
Of course.
Like, nobody knows that that's the childhood of the guy that built Tesla, SpaceX, etc. And I'm not saying that's the case here. The fact that you don't have to look after your parents or something like that growing up, is such a huge unlock for some of these entrepreneurs that they can take whatever risk they want because their worst case scenario is that they end up in the living room of their family.
No, of course, I get that. Yeah.
But obviously not the same thing. But
I get that as an interesting perspective, definitely. No, what I meant by that was, there are plenty of people worse off. At the end of the day, I went to a normal school. We didn't have much, but at the same time, it's not like some people who are in third world countries are having to live. I grew up in Scotland. Absolutely. We grew up in a interesting area. It was full of fun and the stupid stuff you do when you're kids, but at the same time, I wouldn't change it, wouldn't have it any other way. I feel like that's something that now that I'm older, I look back at, and it just gave you a bit of grit.
No, I'm with you. Let's talk about your early sort of story in Dubai, right?
Yep.
Like, obviously, you came here a while back.
So when I first moved to Dubai, I stayed in Dira for
Oh,
my
nice.
my
Of
first
course.
2 months.
Of course.
And the recruiter had told me that Dira was near Al Barsha.
Right.
So a typical Dubai real estate story, you get sold the dream. So
10 minutes from Burj Khalifa.
yeah, exactly. So I would get in the metro to the office on the first day.
Wow.
From Dira to Al Barsha. I got off at Sharaf DG.
Nice.
And I walked along the road to the Al Barsha Business Centre, and I went in there for my first day of work. And you know what? You just got thrown in at the deep end. And you know what? I liked it like that. It's not how I think agents should be treated. I think they should be trained. I think they should go down that way. But for me, it was just like, right, get on the phones, make some money. And I look back now, I wonder if I would be more successful, less successful, if I had more training or whatever it might be. You're never going to know.
Yeah.
But I do think, obviously, the more you learn, the more you earn. But I did pretty well in my first month, second month, third month, top broker leasing. I was leasing for 2 years.
Wow.
So in Dubai real estate, back 10 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. If you join in Dubai real estate right now, if you have savings, go into sales. Get yourself into sales because we've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
But I was in leasing for 2 years, then I was in sales for 2 years, then I moved into a bit more off-plan and management. Mm-hmm. Then I went on to being a managing partner of a business. Then I obviously opened my own brokerage.
Wow.
During my time as a broker, I'd worked at, I believe it's 6 companies.
Right.
So 6 companies, you've got to think, these guys or myself at the time, I'm commission only. If I'm not being looked after, if I'm not being treated right, if I'm not valued, if I'm not appreciated, if I'm not getting incentives, if my commission isn't matching the amount of money I'm bringing to the business,
Sure.
then I'm not going to stick around for it. And at the end of the day, brokerages have a really interesting thing where they just go, well, that's the rules. And it's like, now being a business owner, I know that there's so much more. There was a much larger piece of the pie that could have been given away.
Right.
Considering that we've got 300 agents and a large percentage of them is on 70%, 65%, 60%, and there's still brokerages out there that say to people, oh no, you can't offer more than 50%, 55%. And then they say things like this, they go, yeah, but those other companies that offer the high commissions, they don't give out all the stuff we get. And I'm sitting there as definitely one of the top 5 agencies in the market that offers this stuff.
Right.
So it does work. But what I saw when I opened White & Co is I'd taken all of the bad parts of the businesses that I'd worked at. I'd also taken the good parts. And I thought, how can I build a business that has all the good bits and none of the bad bits? Right. And then put my own sort of spin on it. So that's how White & Co was essentially formed.
Wow. Well, where does the buck stop on the commission thing, right? Like, because look, I know people that do 100% commission and then they charge a monthly subscription to have a desk or whatever it is and CRM and etc. What's the right amount, right? How do you decide as a brokerage? I mean, I'm asking because I don't know.
No,
how
of course,
you decide.
of course. Yeah. Here's the thing for me. I need to know how much I'm happy to take home while taking all the risk. My risk per month right now is £1.5 million, $1.9 million every month before someone's made a penny. So, I think that's worth the 25%, 30% that comes in. And then remember, I've got overheads. So if a 70% broker takes home 70%, they leave me with 30, then out of that 30, we now need to pay all the salaried staff. Then we need to pay for the rent. Then we need to pay property finder, Bayut, all the marketing, you name it, so on. And I think that works out to be okay. But on top of that, we've got plenty of agents that are on 50%. If you have just entered the Dubai real estate market and you have not put more than a few million on the board, you don't deserve to be 70%.
Damn.
That's not how it works. You don't walk into Man United and go, I want to play for the first team just because I'm here. You have to earn your spot.
Of course.
And at the end of the day, brokerages have to not be scared to say to someone who's underperforming, that's where you belong at the moment. If you want out of 50% to get to 55, 60, 65, 70, do better. And the good thing is it's very clear targets. None of it's not just me coming in one day and going, you're 55, you're 60, you're 70. It's not arbitrary.
Right.
It's based on targets. And it's the same targets for the people at the top of the board versus the people who are at the bottom of the board.
Right.
And that's what I love about this job. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It makes no difference. Yeah. All that matters is that board and what's on it.
I mean, ethnicity is an interesting thing, right? Like, because I think people don't understand the buyer makeup of this market, right? You got the Brits, you got Indians, you got Pakistanis, you got Chinese guys, Russian,
you name it.
It's such a multicultural market, and like there's this preconceived notion that actually you need to be a certain ethnicity to sort of succeed as a broker.
Absolutely
But
not.
actually, you could probably succeed just about in any demographic today, because that's how international this market is. But let's say I am one of those new guys entering Man United, right?
Yeah.
And I have to pick up the phone on the first day. Gonna get shut down a few times. But what's my script if I was Calum White starting out today?
Okay, so first of all, we never put you straight on the phone first day.
Okay.
There is 2 weeks of training at least, and then there's also a controlled environment when you do first jump on the phone, where it's only the new people who are on the phone and then the managers.
Got it.
So, you know, it is very daunting going on a sales floor and you're sitting beside, one person beside you's just got 2.5 million on the board, the other person beside you's been there for 3 years, and you're about to pick up the phone and you're scared of what you're going to say. And listen, there's people that will never get over that fear. Don't get me wrong, there's other ways to do business, but the easiest way as a new broker is to get on the phones. As simple as that. Straightest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But what I would do if I'd joined a company like White & Co, say I've just joined the company, I've went into the marina. First thing I'm going to do, my first day on the floor, I'm going to go to the people in my team, I'm going to go, guys, you're probably all very busy. Does anyone want me to call out and find some stock for you guys? And then someone's going to turn around to me and go, yeah, actually I need a 2-bedroom in Cayenne Tower. Great, I'm going to call Cayenne Tower. Now I'm calling with a purpose.
Right.
You phone someone and say, listen, we have a buyer who's interested in your apartment in Cayenne Tower. Right now, this is what price it's at. We've got someone who's interested at this price. Would you be interested in meeting so that we can sit down and look at a strategy on how to get this sold? Because if this buyer doesn't buy it, I want to make sure that I'm bringing other people through the door. And then after that, you know, there's some interesting things that I want to talk to you about, because once we've sold this, I want to put together an investment plan on what you're going to do with that money. The market's never been better. Have you looked at this, this, and this? And this is where the ammunition that brokers need to have.
Right.
Obviously, on the first day, it doesn't happen like that. You know, I've been here 10 years. I'm the CEO. I'm meant to know this stuff.
Yeah.
But the more informed you are, the more you learn, the more you earn.
100%.
And, you know, and confidence comes with competence. The more you've done it, the easier it is to rattle it off.
The way that these taglines are coming out, are they on a t-shirt somewhere? Can I get them? No, but that's awesome. No, I mean, I think I was just very curious because when I came to your office the other day, I actually walked into one of Candace's sort of
training
session.
It was a training session, yeah.
And I just walked in and I felt like a kid that was late to class.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
just walked out. Candace was like, what are you? It looked like Wall Street.
Well, what we try and compare it to is, you know, we have to be tougher in here because it's war out there. You know, and if there's ever a place that you can be as tough as possible, it's in a controlled environment where it's safe.
Right.
If you ever want to do role play, if you want to do scripts, if you ever want to practice something and fail, the right place to do it is in the office, not when you're standing in front of a client who's got 20 million dirham to spend.
Yeah.
And once you've done it a few times, like, you know, another tagline, it's just typical, but practice makes perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, big part of sales is rejection, right?
Yeah.
How did you sort of deal with rejection, and how do you kind of like build the thick skin to basically say, you know what, like it's just another like message that I've sent or whatever. Like I do sales, I do like fundraising, bit of everything, and sometimes times are good, sometimes times are not so great.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And you need to kind of have both, because right now I feel like for the last few years the market's been amazing, right?
Yes.
Like astronomically amazing. So I feel like some of the new brokers in the market don't really know.
I've never felt.
Yeah, never felt how hard it can be, right? At least that's what I've heard from people who've been in the business for 2 decades,
It's
right?
true.
And what would you say to those people that have not yet felt that or are trying to deal with that better?
Yeah. So the first thing is see, for brokers that have done deals in the past or had a great month, first things first is if you've done it once, you can do it again. That's the big thing to remember, and to follow the process. If you look around an office, most offices, there's going to be people in there that, and it's the honest answer is that you sit there going, how are they earning so much money? Like people that are just normal people that are doing it, and there's nothing that they've got that you've not got.
No.
Because in our company and in most companies, the person at the top has the exact same tools as the person at the bottom. What they might have is experience, time in the market, more of a proven track record, but you can't get a track record unless you do it. So I would say with rejection, let's just say a deal falls through. Here's what you don't do. You don't walk around the office telling everyone in the office about your deal falling through. You go home, you eat some ice cream, you watch some Netflix, you come in the next day ready with a smile on your face to crack on. That's what winners do. What a loser does is they walk around the office telling everyone a little sob story about how hard life is and how everyone loses deals. The best brokers lose the most deals because they're working on the most deals. Some people have that wrong. They think that good brokers close every single offer. No, they just have 10 offers going on at a time.
Yeah.
And that means when they lose one, they're not panicking. Bad brokers work on one thing. They lose an offer. They go, oh, I've nothing left. I've nothing else. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So it's tough, and it's a really hard job. And, you know, I always say this to people when I'm pulling them aside and letting them, like, it's like a marathon. You don't run along someone running a marathon going, this is really hard. You run along beside them going, you've got this, it's easy, come on. But it's a tough job. So, it's finding that middle ground. Some people actually respond very well to tough love. Some people need an arm around them and, to be told, like, it's all going to be okay. So it's just, again, it's being a social chameleon. It's making sure that you understand people's different emotions.
Right. And, there's this, I think there's this meme that goes around, it's like, tough times never last, tough people do, or something like that. I mean, look, we just spoke about rejection and that home piece. Tell me about sort of a time that was really hard for you, right? Like, I mean, everyone knows the ultra successful Calum White, right? Tell me about a not so rosy, not so nice day, and how you kind of like came out of that. Was it the ice cream and the Netflix, or was it something else?
Before I did my biggest deal ever in the market, I promise you that I must have had 10 deals of the same value. None of them went through. So the 10th one closed, 9 of them didn't go through, and every one of them I thought, I'm about to be a millionaire. Imagine for a week, 2 weeks, you're sitting thinking, I'm going to make £1 million. And then you find out maybe one's a scam. Maybe one, they've decided to change their mind. Maybe one of them, the developer, wasn't happy to negotiate by the price it was meant to be, and you've sat there going, oh, this is surely going to pay off. Maybe one of them just disappeared. Over my 6-7 years as a broker, I had that happen many a time. And I can't think of one exact time, and maybe that's repressed memories. Maybe I don't want to remember it. But what I'd say is there was plenty of times when deals came that were massive deals, and I was sitting there thinking, this is the one that changes it. This is the one. This is the one. And they didn't come until that final one. Each of those times it would have been very tough to swallow, because even in the time when the deal's ongoing, you're coming home at night, you can't sleep, you're sitting thinking about what you want to do with your money. And at this time I didn't have money like I do now. So I was sitting going, right, I'll buy a house here, and I'll buy another house here, and then that's my investment properties, and then I'll finally buy my dream car, and then boom, swiped away, gone. And then same again, and then so this happened multiple times, but I'd say that there isn't a time that I can think of just one off, and I'm sorry that I don't have that, and maybe that's a good thing, but I'd say that to any broker out there, I've seen brokers in my company as well go through the exact same thing, and I know how it feels. Like I've seen there was someone that scammed, well, they didn't take anything from us, but sending us over fake bank slips to show they've sent all the money to the developer, all this, just because they wanted to take a girl from her office out on a date, pretending to buy all this property. This girl's sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've just made an £800,000 commission. Worked really hard, sent everything over, grafting away, and then we found out that this guy was actually doing it to 4 or 5 girls around Dubai real estate, and went to the land department about it. Nothing we can do. So people are horrible. Life's tough. It doesn't make it okay, but put it this way, that person's still in our business as one of our best brokers.
Yeah. No, I mean, every attempt as if it's going to happen is the way to do it, right? Yeah. Like, and I remember coming home a bunch of times, and I stay with my family, obviously, out here. But anyways, the point is that I would say, oh, like this is our first ever customer. It's like 3 users, like, $80 per head. That's going to be like $240. You know what that means? If I get 1,000 users, that's like, a ridiculous amount of revenue per month. And then you know what I'm going to do? This, which is the same thing, right? I know it's not like as high ticket and like,
but you're planning for the future.
It's the same thing, right? And every time, at least in the early days, for every 50 to 70 people you'd speak to, there's probably 3 or 4 that work out in a meaningful way. Now that conversion's way higher, but that's how it starts out. But I find that saying it as if it was gonna happen is kind of such a big part of it actually happening towards the end. And you ended up doing $100 million dirham deal, I believe,
correct.
Which then led you to start White & Co.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of brokers that don't spend money like that, right? They buy a few cars, or they blow it all up on like some random crap, and then next thing you know, that's zero somehow, despite making millions. If you were a broker today and you just made $1 million dirhams, how would you spend it?
Now, just to be clear to anyone listening, $1 million dirhams isn't a lot, as in to keep you surviving for like 5-6 years, just in case anyone's sitting there going like, oh, I'm rich. I would pay my rent up front for the year in a nice place where now I want to live. There's nothing wrong with living in JVC and other places like that. I lived there too. But I'm saying go and get yourself a place where you want to buy a house. So like go and move to somewhere where you're like, this is a community I want to be in. Because eventually you're going to get family or pets or whatever, you name it. You don't want to be in a 1-bedroom or a studio in JVC. Get yourself a half decent car. with a million dirhams, you've not got enough to get your dream car. I'm sorry. You're not going and buying a G-Wagon or a Lamborghini or something like that. That's the million gone.
Yeah.
Go and get yourself a nice enough car, and then what to do is now when you turn up to viewings, you're not embarrassed, okay? Because as you earn more money and as you deal with higher value properties, people will wonder why you're turning up in a Nissan Sunny. Yeah. I'm sorry to say it, but I wish we lived in the world where people didn't judge people on that stuff, but they do. And if you turn up to show a villa on the Palm and you're driving a Nissan Sunny, they assume this guy can't close deals, otherwise he wouldn't be in a Nissan Sunny. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Other than that, go get yourself some nice suits, go treat yourself to some nice dinners, put 200k, that's 20% of that into savings, or right now stick it in some crypto.
What have you bought?
Bitcoin and all the rest of the stuff, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
But go and put some of that in savings, and then other than that, now you've got yourself set up for success for the next year. Don't worry about making $1 million. Let's go and make 3 million. Let's go and make 5 million, because there's brokers in the market that really are. Taking home $1 million dirham, that's just above an average broker. Just above an average broker take home. That's my view. Some companies might think, oh my God, $1 million dirham, but I'm letting you know, and the guys in my business know that taking home $1 million dirham is above average, but not an unbelievable broker. Okay? Yep. So then you need to go and make sure you're hitting that 3 million take home, that 5 million take home, and working towards that. And I think that if you've been in the market for, that a long time, which is a long time nowadays, is that 8 years plus, then you want to be making sure that you're taking home, between 4 and 5 million a year. So it's £1 million. You'll be living a fantastic life out here, give you enough to invest, set yourself up to retire early. Because once you've got money, what do you want? Freedom. That's the goal. Once money's done, it's freedom and making sure you can look after other people.
I think when people think of brokers, they think of this something 20, 30 something kind of person, but you actually spoke about a person that was more than 50 years old, I think, at your brokerage that closed the deal. That was, I believe it was, I don't want to mess this up, but something like £45,000 in commission or something like that. And that was more money than they had ever made. Yeah. Right? There's people who are older who have probably been here a lot longer than most people that want to get into the game, right? But they don't know how to get involved, right? And what you're talking about, the numbers are ridiculous, because I've lived here almost 30 years, right? And like $1 million dirhams a year is not normal, for sure, right? Like as in most people don't make that in 20, 25 years. Yeah. So for someone who's 50 plus and they're listening to this, they're like, how do I start, right? What should they do?
So the biggest problem that you might have as someone that age will be the tech stuff, the annoying stuff. But guess what? That's fine, because salespeople, we hate admin. So don't worry about it, because there's people in my office that are 25-year-old that hate admin and are terrible on the CRM and so on and so forth. Okay? But there has never been a more important time in Dubai real estate for building relationships. The people that are building relationships are making long-term money. They're getting long-term clients. They're not having to... Imagine every single year just having to only find new clients because all the other clients you helped you didn't stick in touch with. Whereas the people that are a bit older, a bit longer in the tooth, they genuinely do keep these relationships. They actually enjoy talking to the people that they speak to. Right. I genuinely believe that majority of real estate brokers in the market do not want to speak to the people they're on the phone to. They're just a paycheck. Okay? But what we're trying to make sure that people are understanding is that what we want to do is create real relationships, because that is how people win in business. Doesn't matter what business it is, you have to create a relationship.
Right. And, you mentioned technology, my favorite topic, obviously. But let's keep it real, right? Like, as in, you're a no bullshit kind of guy. And I want to ask you the no bullshit version of what truth is there to AI being beneficial to your brokers, right?
Well, here's the thing is, I don't know how long it's going to take.
I
do think it will benefit, but I think when people are making a purchase of this level, there will always be a human element to it.
Absolutely.
I believe that, listen, until we see cars being sold by AI and no more car salesmen, I don't need to worry about properties, because they're going to start with the cheaper products before they move to the more expensive. It doesn't make any sense to jump from straight away whatever's being sold by AI now straight to properties. It doesn't make sense. But what I would say is, example, AI rendering can be thrown together in seconds for how an apartment will look. AI can be used to, example, there are a few products out there right now, which is AI for areas that will show this level of ROI or this level of growth over the next few years. And as much as the people out there that are doing the research you can't argue with the data that's coming in from them. It's good to have a combination of both, because if both the people out there from Bloomberg or Property Monitor, or you name it, wherever it might be, if they're pulling the data and it says this, but also AI are pulling the data and it says this, then it's great. It's great for everyone.
We're well away from all of that completely replacing brokers and all. That's like the end of the conversation, I would say. But very low ticket items, even today on the commerce platforms, right?
Yeah.
Like it'll recommend something,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like saying that, oh, this is what
This
you
is
want.
now being added to your basket.
Right? Like
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think that's where it's useful in the collecting information and making that easily understandable.
But even you know, the portals out there, if you're looking for 2 bedrooms in the marina constantly, they'll start pushing you 2 bedrooms in the marina.
Yeah.
Then you'll go on Instagram and it's going to push 2 bedrooms in the marina, and so on and so forth. So, you know, it's already out there. It's just a case of I'm not worried about us being replaced.
Absolutely.
Not in my lifetime anyway, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think there will always be a place for people buying from people, especially when it's usually the most emotional purchase in their life. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that this is not like going to the grocery store.
No,
like, and not everyone has like 10 investment property. Like, you know, people work their whole lives to buy their first home. I feel like we covered quite a bit of ground. What is something that you wish that you saw more of in the Dubai real estate market?
Regulations on brokers who are able to enter it. I feel like they give out real estate licenses in cereal boxes. That's honestly how I feel. And there's some fantastic brokerages at all sizes. Okay, the Allsops, the Better Homes, the House and Houses, the East Basses, and then on a smaller level, there's many others as well. Okay. Sure. Unfortunately, it's not about quality. Sometimes there's too many. Oh, it's my friend that's looking after this, or I know an exclusive agent, and you phone this agent, and they've got no interest in anything but commission. They're not trying to help this person. They're not trying to help the buyer. They're not trying to help the seller. They're just someone who's going, oh, let me look after your property so I get paid. And then on top of that, there's so many agencies that don't do any training. There's so many agencies that don't do any training after the initial training.
Right.
Because if you do 2 weeks of training, 1 week of training, and then you let that person work for 3 years, how are they getting better? And, you know, it's just, I think right now that letting anyone just jump in the real estate, I believe that in America, I think it's a 3-week course to get your real estate license.
Sure.
3-week course and then a test, and I'm sure it's much harder than it is in Dubai. Right now, they're just letting people do the test in their office on a computer. And all you need is one person in the company that knows the answers, and then boom, it's done. And then everyone's got a license.
I mean, but America is interesting because you have about 1.6 million realtors who are registered with the NAR, but only half of them are active, right? Yeah. Only 800,000 people do any deals, and quite a lot of them are actually not even at the $1 million mark, right? So it's a very different market altogether, and I'm not sure how rigorous their testing process is, but I see your point about
the point is, if people in America turned up to transfer on properties the way that some people over here turn up to transfer on properties, you wonder what's going on. And again, this isn't about what they wear. It's just the fact that they don't have knowledge. It's just the fact that you know, the regulations are not there to make this market better. They're not here to make it more transparent. They're not here to raise the standards of what we do. They're just here to go, more people, come on in, go for it. I mean, since COVID happened, the amount of real estate brokerages that have opened just because we're on an upward trajectory is crazy. Yeah. But it's not helping the market.
Right. And, you know, there's so many of these new developers as well. There's like a lot of new off-plan stuff going around. And I have to ask you, what are those areas that you look at and say, if you have £1 million to invest, you know, this is probably the neighborhood to go after. I don't know if you can disclose or...
No, of course. Absolutely. I always look at JVC. We sell a lot in JVC. And you know what's funny is, like, once they sort the infrastructure there, it's going to be a bit of a process. But if you're going to hold that property for a little while, it's going to pay off quite well. A lot of our brokers buy properties in JVC. They wait till handover. They sell it for a 30% premium. You know what I mean? Like, you buy something for 900,000 dirham, you sell it for 1.2. It's absolutely great. It's fantastic. And we're talking about a year in between. Yeah. A 30% in a year. It's absolutely great. And then on top of that, I'd maybe look at Ras Al Khaimah right now. As everyone really knows, or if you don't know, obviously they've got the casino opening there. They're selling like hotcakes. Everything that launches out there is being sold, and people don't believe it. It's really interesting when people go, yeah, but are they really selling all these things? They really are. Even us, like, we had something recently that we were just trying to get sold. We sold a lot of units in there, but we had to be waiting for, as soon as it launched, on the phone. Like, there was like 10 agents in my office all on the phone to different sales reps in the same developer. Wow. So, like, if that's what we were doing, you can only imagine how many other brokers were also trying to get through. Right. It is really crazy right now. Dubai Creek, Infrastructure's now looking good down there. Definitely somewhere I would look at. If it's somewhere that you don't want to go to a new place and go, right, okay, I want to trust something that's already been there, Palm Jumeirah always holds its value. Sure. Marina holds its value. Downtown holds its value. Yeah. Right now, there isn't a bad spot, but you'll just get more capital appreciation in the areas I mentioned first.
Sure.
Because it's a case of buying it and then holding it for a little while, whereas it's more a case of you have something a little bit more prestigious.
Yeah.
If you're Palm, Marina, downtown, and it's already a fully fledged community.
You know, can I be completely honest?
Yeah, go for it.
Sometimes with the Russell Kema stuff, like I grew up here, right? Yeah. Like, and we used to go to Double J's, and like, you know, we've done the whole like road trips there every weekend or whatever it is, and we appreciate it for what it is, like before the casino, right? Yeah. And now whenever people say rack, they just say casino, right? And like for me, it just doesn't sit well. But like I wanna. Do you think these brokers actually go to Russell Kema? They have actually seen the things around? Because I don't think a lot of people have.
I know good brokers that haven't. I know bad brokers that haven't. There's people that I know that are specialists and now only selling rack.
Wow.
They believe in it that much. Yeah. And they're going down there, they're taking videos of the site, they're doing everything they can. Every video is about Ras Al Khaimah and what they're doing down there. And they've really bought into it, and they truly believe in their hearts of hearts that it's going to be something fantastic. There's other brokers that are just jumping onto the bandwagon, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If something's selling and people are interested, sometimes people phone one of our brokers and goes, I want to buy something here. We're not going to say don't. And as long as it's a good choice. We've already seen people buy there and exit there and make money. And I do believe it's going to be a good thing. I believe it's going to keep the riffraff a little bit out of Dubai, and then they can come to Dubai for the luxury and the good stuff and the nice stuff. But if you want to go out and be a bit crazy, go over to RAC.
Yeah.
Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. We'll see when it opens. We'll see how it all goes. But that's what I believe will happen.
No, that's awesome. Look, you spoke a little bit about how brokers go and take these videos and things like that. And I've gone to some of these launch events now, and like I've seen how like the second they unveil the model, everyone's like zoom into the thing and like, oh my god, send it on WhatsApp, like, you know, just go to town. How are you approaching social media, entertainment, like a little? Because I know you're doing a little bit of the podcast, like how you say roadshow now. But tell me how you're approaching it outside of this, right? And how is your kind of view for 2025 and how you're sort of looking at it?
I think any company out there's companies out there that market properties, there's companies out there that list properties, and there's companies out there that actually sell them. You do not get paid for making a fancy video.
No.
You might get likes on Instagram. You do not get paid for listing a property. It actually just costs money. Both these things cost. Yes, it's an investment into it. Okay, I get that, and you want to sell off the back of it. But unless you have that exclusive, doesn't mean you're going to get paid. Okay, selling the property. Sometimes we have a property and someone else has done a video on it. They've just shared it on their Instagram. We sold it the day before. This has happened.
Crazy.
So, I love the market and stuff. I want to take that to the next level. I want that because it's a tool for the brokers. But for if anyone out there sitting thinking that, like, there's people aren't going on Instagram seeing a picture of a house that's $10 million and going, yeah, I'm going to buy that. And don't get me wrong, this is coming from someone that I actually believe in this tech world now where people are doing a lot on Instagram. No one goes to a restaurant now without looking on TikTok.
Yeah.
But I'm saying someone that's looking to buy a property, they probably have, especially at £10 million, they probably have a preferred agent. It's backwards to not be making more money and sitting trying to make fancy videos.
Yeah, no,
in my opinion.
I think user-generated content is very interesting, right? Like, like it's not as simple as, oh, just listed, just sold, and then you have like a client testimonial video, like I just gave him the key and like a robotic pose, and you just like that. Like it's not any of that. I think there's something to be said for brands where people actually love and talk about it. And we see it in the context of, let's say, the pistachio kunafa chocolate, right? Like everyone's talking about, oh my God, look at this. I tapped the thing and like it opened and tastes amazing, right? Awesome. You never see that about real estate, at least not in a big way. And I feel like that's such a gap in the market where there's so many home owners who are probably extremely happy with what they've got. And the funniest thing is the people that do these videos on these houses are actually the influencers, not the brokers. And sometimes I go like, there's people with such unique configurations to their house, and you guys probably have the inventory of all of that, but then like no one's really going in and like, like, hey, can I just, you know? And like you said, they don't buy, they just pick the agent, right?
The problem is, and this is not the broker's fault, Dubai real estate is a very unloyal place. Owner will phone you, say, listen, I want to work with you. You've been pitching them for 4 weeks. You've worked really hard on it. Finally, you get to the point where they want to list. you sign exclusivity, you've put a lot of effort in it, you then go to your company, you say, listen, I need to make it premium, I need to make it hot, signature, you name it, spend all the money on all the ads, we put it on it, and then the next day another person can phone them, say, I've got an offer, and then he cancels everything with you, instantly goes with them. Wow. Now, there's two things to be said there. Do I deserve to be paid if I didn't have the offer? But at the same time, there's a contract signed and there's a law, and that's how it should go. So, you know, it's just a very different world, and at the same time, like, people are very dubious. See over here, even when we have buyers that want to get into properties to see them, we still have owners that go, yeah, write me a check first. Never mind a broker that wants to come in and make a video. We have buyers that are sitting going like, yeah, you have a house, it's 10 million dirham, we want to buy it, can we come in and have a viewing? Yeah, write me a check for the 10% deposit first, and then you can come and view it. So if that's how hard it is for a broker, you can imagine, if that's how hard it is for a buyer and a broker, you can imagine us going along going, can we make a video in your house? Because it would make life a lot easier for us. It really would. We'd be able to showcase properties better. Now this, coming back to what we were just talking about before this exact conversation, is where the marketing and the videos help. For when you've got people that are actually interested. Because it's no good, the Instagram isn't where you get that, it's the person that says, I want to buy that, have you got a video? There's a video, would you want to come along and see it? Now we've got them in, now we're going to take them along, now we're going to show them the property, we're going to sell it. So it's just interesting.
I think it's definitely worth it on the super prime kind of category, right? Look, you've obviously met a lot of wealthy individuals, right? Like, everyone has money in the real estate circuit, and some people absurd amounts of money. What's sort of one thing you've kind of learned from any of them that you've sort of met, or any sort of interesting encounter that you've had?
I've been talking about this a lot recently because I've only just fell into this sort of category over the past year and a half. No one ever hates from the top down. When you've got money, you're not sitting going, those guys down there trying to, like, for some reason when I opened my brokerage, I was coming for all the big guys. I'm going to come for you guys, I'm going to come for you guys. Oh yeah, we're going to be the best and we're going to do this. And I tried to make a lot of noise. And they're probably all sitting there counting their millions, not even thinking about me. And now, as a bigger company now, I watch smaller companies, newer companies open, and they all have something to say about, you know, ours is going to be the best because we don't do this and we don't do that. And I sit and watch it and I go, I used to be just like you. Don't worry, you'll learn. Because there's a difference between being a disruptor, let your work do the talking. Don't just be, those who bark the loudest have the least to say, or those who speak the loudest have the least to say. And it was just, I went through that as well. So you'll notice people with real, genuine money, you know, I think, what's the saying again? It's wealth whispers and money talks.
Right.
You know, because there's a real difference. People who have money, they don't need to talk about it. They don't need to brag about it. They don't go around going, oh yeah, I've got more money than you, or this and that. They're polite people. They probably grab the bill without anyone knowing. They just get on with their day, and that's something I've definitely learned from, not just in real estate, but just meeting wealthy people.
Right. I mean, they just post a picture in their private jet.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, it is what
they're whispering in their jet.
It's always, but then there's always a hard part, you know, of branding as well. You know, because unfortunately the world we live in is, oh, he must be doing well. I want to be associated with that. I want to be associated with the person with the jet, with the person with the Rolls Royce, with the person who has the successful business. So I suppose a lot of businesses nowadays are built on a brand, and at the end of the day, if you're the face of that brand, you have to keep up appearances. But I was thinking of this driving here. You know, I didn't do a lot of podcasts or videos last year because I didn't like the shape of my body. I've been trying to lose some weight now, and I was sitting thinking, I watch Alex Hormozzi's videos every day. And I was sitting going, this guy's just sitting in a vest with a big rugged beard with a bloody nose strip on. And never once have I sat and went, oh, he's not groomed his beard. It's just not something that runs through people's minds. And it's just something that, you know, it's very interesting. Just the whole psychology of just these silly things that we think of or we tell ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's also this authenticity that a lot of these producers bring, right? I think people are so bent on scrolling and consuming and things like that. And they're like, oh, this guy, he posts like every day, like, oh my God, what does he think he is? Does he think he's a thought leader? Like, you know, but then actually the authenticity and the raw feeling of like, oh, he's just another dude in a t-shirt. Like, you know, it's just, wow. Like, you know, and you can resonate with that. You can connect with that versus the guy in the three-piece. It's very tough to relate to a guy in a three-piece, right?
I've got another slogan for that. You can have this one as well. Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So, you know, anyone that wants to say anything, let them, because they don't matter. because the people that you are affecting, that's who it matters for, you know, which is, again, something very important. When you get successful, people are going to say stuff. No matter what company size it is, there's always going to be 20% that aren't happy.
Yeah.
And guess what? When they leave, they'll be, oh, this place was rubbish and I didn't like this. And There's people that leave Google that say Google wasn't any good. There's people that leave, like the biggest companies in the world, never mind a real estate company in Dubai. Mm-hmm. So you're never going to win every single battle, but just know as long as you're doing the best you can, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I've got only one final question for you. And that is, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
What advice would I give my 21-year-old self? Move to Dubai sooner. Okay. No, I moved here when I was 21.
Wow.
The advice I would give to a 21-year-old self is definitely to have good people around you. No matter what you're going to do, you can't do it yourself. When I opened White & Co, I wanted to do everything because I thought only I can do it and it can only be done right if it was me. The only reason we are where we are, the only reason we have the revenue we do, the size of the team, is they're good people. And that's my management team, that's the brokers, that's everyone. Just surround yourself with good people. You'll make mistakes. You'll meet people that you think are good and sometimes they won't be, but don't hold it against them. Like, it is what it is. People change. Some people aren't meant to be in the same journey as you, whatever. Because becoming successful, it's a lonely journey. And you don't even need people that understand it all the time. You just need people that you can bounce an idea off of. Or someone that will call you on your shit and go, Calum, what are you talking about? And you go, yeah, you're right.
I think that's so important, right? Like, because if you can't have people that check you, because you're ultra successful, nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, Calum, you're like, you know, that's it. Very few people will have the courage to, you know, say that within an organization, right? Like, you're the boss. Yeah. Like, it's very hard to go against them unless you have that much conviction and also that much respect for the other person that you actually go like, I don't want to see them fail, so I'm going to tell them.
Definitely.
This is, wow. Well, Calum, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time. And it's been, I don't even know how long we shot for, but I think we've got a lot of, as Sylvia would say, golden nuggets out of this. But yeah, thanks, Calum. And I'll see you all in the next episode of The Real Ones. Thank you so much for tuning in.